Hey, everybody, this is Chase, and welcome back to the Wellness Center podcast. I am so excited to be with you guys today, not only because the guest that I have on is not only a dear friend of mine, but someone who is beyond phenomenal and very, very credentialed, but because of the tools and skills that she's going to teach you today are honestly going to be mind boggling. And the story that she's going to share is going to be phenomenal as well. You're going to want to listen to this entire podcast. So please make sure to tune in for the entire thing. If you're not already a part of the Wellness Center tribe, please make sure to like and subscribe to whatever platform you're on. So you're getting updated every Friday so you can have the tools and skills you need over the weekend to cope with your mental health. I want everyone, and this is my call to action to you guys, as you're listening to this episode, I personally want you to think of two people that you know could benefit from this episode, and I want you to share it with them. Not only to share with them the love that you have for them and the fact that you're thinking about them, but so you can also share these tools and skills that you're about to learn as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest. And of course, I wrote down the introduction because she is so credentialed. I needed to make sure I got it all. So my guest, she's invested 35 years into the education and discovery of human behavior, health, and wellness. She is a Christian-based certified holistic health practitioner with dozens of certifications. She is a nationally accredited practicing Native American medicine woman. She is an independent, seven-figure successful woman in business starting as young as 18 years old. She is currently developing wonderful tools such as the Happy Stat Sheet, Mindset Mastery, Team Coaching, Corporate Training, and the Every Body Balance 12-week Masterclass series. And most importantly, she treasures her marriage of 25 years to her loving husband. She has 3 adult children who have wonderful spouses. She has 6 grandbabies that she loves fiercely, and she is a warrior daughter of God. Without further ado, now that I am so emotional, Laurie
Oh,
Hartley-Moore. Laurie, how are you doing today?
wow, Chase, can we just do that again? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna change one little thing.
Okay.
It's 35 years of marriage, which is really weird because last time I checked, I was still only 28. So I don't know why that math doesn't work anymore.
Hey, you know what? You're as young as you feel, right? That's the most
There you
important
go.
thing there.
I-
How is your
I'm
day
going
going
with it.
today? That's
You know what?
awesome.
It's been a fabulous day. Friday mornings are always my favorite. We teach a community class where we do yoga and meditation, and it's just a great way to fill up people's buckets physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I always enjoy my Friday mornings.
That's
And now I
awesome.
get to do this with you. So
So-
it's a great day.
Well, you are so kind, Lori. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. I am so excited for this conversation. You are literally like when I think of a wealth of knowledge in the holistic world, like you are the person that comes to mind.
Mm,
So,
thank you.
yeah, of course. I mean,
Thank
with the introduction, as you know, you're worth it, right? You've done so
you.
much. So,
Well, I think I'm just addicted to learning. I grew up thinking I wasn't smart at all.
mhm.
And it wasn't till way after high school that I realized if it's something I'm interested in, I can be all in and I can be really good at it. And I think a lot of us that don't fit that traditional educational mode struggle with that type of
Yeah.
experience, I guess you'd say.
Oh man, already diving in. I absolutely no, it's so true. It is so, I remember I struggled a lot in school growing up thinking I was stupid. And I
Mhm.
remember once there was a saying, I think it was from Albert Einstein, that if you judge a fish's ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its whole life believing it's stupid. R-
Ooh,
Right. So that's sometimes, and most of the time, there's not always one way, right?
no,
Education can be
there's
what it
never
needs to
one
be.
way.
Never one
That's
way.
why we were all created absolutely individually, from the shape of our nose to the length of our legs. We all get to have that individual experience. And yet, as humans, we seem to often try to put ourselves in a box or a category or a certain system. And I think that's part of our growth is learning how to just expand outside of those models.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think people like to be a part of the norm, to go with the crowd?
Well, we're going to dive right in here.
Let's do it.
Through the all of the experience of working with people over the years, what I've found is if we really go to the core issue, there's two. One
Okay.
of them is connection.
Okay.
If you're really struggling, especially with your mental health, there is a core belief that's running through your system that is a feeling of not being connected.
Mhm.
And the second one is going to be the complete lie that you are not good enough, no matter what. You're not tall enough, fast enough, skinny enough, smart enough, whatever it is. So we battle with that not being good enough and not being connected. So we have that need to try to belong somewhere. And so we'll do things that are completely unnatural or foreign
Mhm.
just to fit in and feel like we can call some space or some group of, family members, individuals, whatever it is, this is where I'm connected. And when we continue to struggle, that's really one of those issues we have to go in and look at. Where do I feel unconnected? Where am I still believing that I am not good enough at? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. We're like 2 minutes in, and already your life has changed for those who are listening to it. Thanks, Lori, for coming on the show. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, there you
That.
go. We're done. Quick and easy. Yeah. Grab a pen, or good thing you can rewatch this because you'll get to know real fast that I not only talk a mile a minute, but it's often like a fire hose. So just, put your seatbelt on. We'll get through it.
It's good, so everyone's going to listen to this 5 times, and everyone's going to benefit from all 5 times. So,
Awesome.
and I think the way you describe that, where people need connection and people have a self-worth, I'm not enough. I think that's actually going to segue kind of into my first question for you. Lori, I
Okay.
want you to take us back to a young Laurie Hartley-Moore. When were some of the first times you noticed you were struggling with your mental health?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't until I was older that I actually realized what, we were able to put a label on it. In
Right.
fact, I think you'll agree with me. It's only been in the last decade that anxiety and depression have become an awareness where people could actually, put a title or a way to identify what it is they were struggling with. And honestly, I think my biggest lesson happened when I was like 40 years old.
Hmm.
So here I'd been helping people for all these years, and I came from that space of maybe a lack of a little humility because
Hmm.
I was under the belief that, okay, well, you just have to be positive, say your affirmations and try not to be negative. And if you just do all these fluffy things, then there's no reason you should have anxiety.
Right.
And then God got to teach me, well, it was a great opportunity, right, for me to
Uh-huh.
learn how absolutely soul wrenching real anxiety and depression can be. And
Uh,
I remember driving down the highway,
mhm.
and it was that familiar pit in my stomach that
Mhm.
started. And, you kind of get anxious or you're wound up or maybe a little apprehensive, you've got too much on your plate, whatever it is. I'm
Mhm.
cruising down the road, and that black hole, that pit in my stomach turns into this giant black hole, and I start
Mhm.
sweating and my breath gets short. I'm dizzy. I remember my vision narrowing in, and I'm driving, mind you.
Mhm.
3 kids in the car, and it was that classic, got to be the mom, the taxi driver, the businesswoman, the community service director, the church leader, whatever it was. I had
Mhm.
all of that on my plate and that need to prove myself able, if you
Mhm.
will. But I will never forget the argument within my own mind. The logical part of me was continually saying, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Why are you freaking out?"
Mhm.
And then the emotional side of me that's making me not be able to catch my breath and my heart's pounding out of my chest is arguing, "Oh, no, no, we're far from okay."
There's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and having to pull the car over and literally go through the panic attack, that was
Mhm.
something I'd never experienced. And all of a sudden, I realized I had been completely mistaken about how this was to be managed and how it was something not easily, you don't just say, "Oh, I'm fine today," and
Mhm.
it's all supposed to manifest. So that took me through a journey of about 6 months of
Hmm.
figuring out what in the world was going on and where I needed to go back within
Hmm.
and start to look at, all those pieces of me that had honestly just become completely out of balance.
I
So
love
that's,
that.
yeah, that's my first memory into
The realm.
when mental health actually became a thing for me.
Yeah.
And
It-
it's like anything else. As we learn something, we really don't know how to have the empathy or the understanding unless
mhm.
we've had that experience personally.
Right.
And yeah, it really shifted, opened a lot of doors, and has brought me to where I am today, where my primary focus is helping people with mental health and creating all of those balancing pieces in their life.
I love that. That is so cool that, and I love this podcast because every answer is so different from the last person, right? We've had some people on where they've talked about mental health. They
Mhm.
recognized it when they were young. And I know there's people who are listening to this thinking, "Wait, I was in my 30s or 40s when I started thinking about it." So to have you come on and have a totally different story than someone else not only shows how unique and individual every person is, but that
Mhm.
there's no rhyme or reason of how this is all discovered and how it goes. So I love that. And I would love to dig in and ask you a couple vulnerable questions kind of about your story, if
Okay,
that's okay. Um,
absolutely.
as you were talking, as you were having all of those different things on your plate, right? The leadership roles in the church, you were trying to be the taxi driver and the doctor and the mom and the friend and the PTA president and all of those things. Um, and I don't remember the exact word you said, and I apologize. I should have written it down, but you said for the performance to perform to almost kind of in my own words to gain your worth, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why do you feel like you personally had to do all of those things to gain your worth?
Well, I'm going to give you some science.
Okay.
From age 0 to 7, as a child, we're operating in our what they call your subconscious brain.
Hmm.
And everything that comes into that child's life during those early developmental years is processing as truth.
Hmm.
And we learn early on how to survive in our current environment.
Hmm.
So I grew up as an only child for the first 10 years of my life.
Hmm.
And living in a world of a lot of adults, there was a constant need to be seen and heard. So, like most kids, we crave that positive attention. And so
Right.
you'll do anything you can to grab that attention. And then when you realize what works, you continue it. And I
Right.
think that this is very common for children is we're really good at um, reminding them what they're doing wrong. Stop that, sit down, hold still, be quiet, whatever
Hmm.
that is. And not so much as um, maybe practiced at pointing out the good. So kids are so eager, us, we all know that they want to be loved. They want to be recognized as you're doing a good job, or I'm so proud of you.
Hmm.
And so I became aware that in order to get the attention of two parents that worked full time, were busy trying to figure out how to raise themselves, let alone
Hmm.
me, that if I jumped high enough or if I danced cute enough or I whatever it was, the kind
Hmm.
of the trick and pony show type thing, then I got that reinforcement that I
Hmm.
needed. So as I grew up, it also had to do with my personality design, which if you can probably already tell, I'm extremely outgoing,
Yes.
um, and social. And so outside of the home, I also found the attention and the worth that I needed by how I could perform, how I could show up. So as I grew into adulthood, it just continued in that cycle.
Hmm.
And I always made the joke, I must love busy because I continue to recreate that. Like my plate
Right.
is always over full.
You're
And,
a very busy
you know,
person.
yeah, I would probably fit into that. What do they call it? The A type personality, or maybe some of the other personalities would call it a red, or in my program, we call it the dancer.
Hmm.
So the whole point of that is that need to feel good enough.
Hmm.
I was able to feel that by how I performed in my actions. So the more I could do, or the more I could accomplish during the day, it wasn't just a to-do list, it was how many to-do lists can I have? Then at the end of the day, when I would finally crash from exhaustion,
Hmm.
I I could say, okay, I'm okay. I think I'm good enough today. I did
Hmm.
A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, all of it. And it becomes a very unhealthy cycle, to
Hmm.
the point that I can tell you it's been about, well, right around that 40-year mark that my health crashed. My adrenals shut down.
Hmm.
I went through almost a year and a half of not being able to even walk to the end of the driveway without feeling
Wow.
like I had run a marathon.
Hmm.
And I remember my grandmother always saying, "You're burning the candle at both ends." And I would get so mad and say, "Don't speak that over me. I'm fine. I've got it
Hmm.
all handled."
Right.
And then when I did crash, which, she knew was coming from
The
her
I
years of wisdom,
Yeah.
I remember being so upset because I couldn't do the things that I'd done before.
Hmm.
And it really created that opportunity of having to stop and figure out, well, if I'm not all of those external things, and this picture of perfection, that we like to hold up, if I put this picture down and everybody sees who's really behind the picture or the
Hmm.
camera, um, then what's going to happen? They can't possibly accept me just for who I am.
Right.
It's always been about what I can do. So there's a lot of that inner child work that we need to look at.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be about dragging up all your old mess, right?
Right.
It really is learning new skill sets to do life better. I mean, that's the simple statement to all of it, really.
Guys, so for everyone listening, if you're not already trying to throw your money at Lori, please do. Like this is free information she's giving you. Just imagine the what she's doing with everything else. It's so powerful, Lori. Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
You're
It's
so
it's
welcome.
it's vulnerable, it's powerful, it's educational, it is literally changing lives. And I know you know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I want to say, you know what, that we had this conversation pre-recording, but
Yeah.
um money's an interesting thing. There's so many people that struggle with their relationship with money,
Hmm.
and that's definitely part of our personal development when we can
Right.
get right with money. But money's just an energy exchange,
Hmm.
and really, when you can come back to the root or the truth, when you're ready to show up and learn something new, learn how to do life better, it's not about the money. It's about your willingness to look at what's not working
Hmm.
and figure out how to do it better, how to make it work. We have people that go to school for years and years to be a professional, like a doctor or a lawyer, or,
Right.
an electrician, and they put all that practice into getting really skilled at being good at what they do.
Hmm.
Not very many people realize that if you want to be really good at life, you need to put the same type of devotion into learning what it takes to have a healthy, happy life. And
Yeah.
well,
I think
yeah.
I think Tim Ferriss, he describes it as the new rich. Right? It's
Mm,
it's these people who are not only do they have like financial success, but they also have spiritual success, and familial success and social success and all of these different areas of their life where they're so completely fulfilled that it's not the mindset of, hey, once I make $1 million, I'm okay. My
mm,
worth is there. I'm good. I've made it. Everything else in life will be good once you hit that point. It's like you said, it's that new rich, that
yes. And
that
that
term.
new rich does come from within.
Right.
That's the biggest the aha moment you can ever arrive at, is to realize your happiness cannot be achieved by everything on the outside of you. You've got to learn how to forgive, how to identify and love
Hmm.
yourself. And as you change, it's really magical to watch the world around you change as well. It's like an energetic frequency. When you think about an old transition radio, when you're off station and you're getting all that fuzz and the static going
Hmm.
on in your life, if you can tune to that right channel and your frequency's coming in strong, all of a sudden the right people, situations, opportunities can align because you're on the right station. I hope that's an analogy that you can connect with.
Oh, 100% people can, and I know they are. That's amazing. All right, Larry, I got one more question for you, kind of about
Okay.
what brought you up to what my second question will be. So, let's go back a couple of conversations, and you're sitting in the car.
Mhm.
You have to pull over because you're going through this panic attack, this anxiety attack. And, up to that point, I had it all together. I was doing everything great. And now you're like, what is this?
Mhm.
What were the beliefs that went through your head in that moment? All right, the beliefs about yourself.
Ah, wow.
Yeah,
Well,
deep question there.
yeah, deep question. And again, it's the stage that I had created for myself.
Mhm.
That's the hardest part is when you realize that you're the only one that controls the movie that's playing out in your life.
Right.
And you even go through, some denial, some anger, regret of, wait a
Mhm.
minute, like this is my fault? How is this my fault?
Right.
And having to take responsibility is a huge step in realizing that the not only the situations but the relationships, the um, just the scenarios that you're producing or allowing is is feeding you back exactly what you're asking for. It's that, the universal drive-in. You pull up to the drive-in and you roll down your window and order whatever it is, and if you
Mhm.
don't order, you sit there, and that, the universe has no idea really what you want, and you're not getting what you want because you're not even able to realize it's up to you
Mhm.
to choose into what your life gets to look like.
Mhm.
In fact, that's one of my sayings you'll hear all the time is I love teaching people how they get to happen to life
Mhm.
instead of believing that life happens to you.
Love it. Gold. Listen, everyone, just restart it. Listen up to this point like 5 times. I mean, there's so much gold that's going to continue to come from this episode, but Laurie has already blessed all of us, me, you listening with so much good stuff. So, Laurie, thank you. This, I think, is a perfect segue into my next question. And I know you got up to this earlier, but we went off and had some amazing conversations. You get to that point where you realize, oh my gosh, I need to fix some things, right? And you went through this 6 month deep dive into yourself. And to me, that 6 month deep dive is what I like to consider the heroine's journey or the hero's journey, where you have to experience a pivotal hard trial, and then you go into the inner depths of yourself and you come out better because you've gone and you've slayed those demons or those beasts. You've conquered that mountain. You've started that journey. So I want to know, what was that 6 month journey like for you?
So during that 6 months, one of the things that I was forced to look at, was my physical health.
Hmm.
And in that process of trying to figure out, why I couldn't think straight, why I couldn't catch my breath. We owned a CrossFit gym at the time, and I
Hmm.
was used to doing some pretty heavy duty workouts, and I was failing. In fact, when I noticed it the most, it was because I wasn't recovering. And then I couldn't turn around and do what I was used to doing every single day.
Hmm.
Um, so my physical part of my body said, okay, time out. We need to figure out what's going on and how to remedy that.
Hmm.
So, first of all, it was that look into the physical. And then I had to go into the mental and emotional. Now, a little nugget here on the side. Most people don't realize that our mental body and our emotional body are two completely different things.
Hmm.
Your mental body is your belief systems. These are all of those systems that you created as a young child before the age of 7 that helped you identify what was true or false, what was safe or
Hmm.
unsafe. And so as we're looking at that mental body, those are those programs that are still running under the surface. I often laugh because we think it's our, our awareness, our consciousness that's leading our life.
Hmm.
Well, 90% of what's happening is that subconscious brain. That's those early programs. We could be 30, 40, 50 years old, and the 5-year-old is still telling us how to act and react if we haven't figured out how to upgrade that system. So, the mental body is the programs, the emotional body is how you feel about those programs.
Hmm.
And then, of course, from the mental body, so you have, I'm going to just give this to you right here. So you've got seven, right? 7
7.
different aspects, so we start with physical, then
Mhm.
we go the mental,
Mhm.
the emotional, the spiritual, which is that part that keeps us alive and is our connection outside of just this body, or
Mhm.
even insides, maybe a better way to look at it. We have our energetic system, which this is a lot to do with your environment.
Mhm.
What are you allowing in that space that's influencing how you think, feel, and act? And
Mhm.
then we have your social aspect, which this is going to be all those relationships,
Mhm.
whether it's your family or friends or coworkers. And then you have your vocational, which is that's that creative center of us where we continue to learn, where we perhaps have our career and all of our goals set up. So those 7 bodies actually ended up being a really incredible program that I still use today,
Mhm.
and we call it the 7 bodies of balance. And it's so powerful because when you can realize you're not just this physical body, you're not just your brain, that you really have all of these avenues that need to be addressed in order to create that holistic or whole body health,
Mhm.
uh, body, mind, and spirit. Then you
Mhm.
can start to again operate on a more updated system that allows you to take better care of each aspect. Um, so that began my journey, right? First, I had to work on my physical health.
Right.
And I'm going to just keep dropping these little golden nuggets, because when I'm sitting with somebody here in my office and they are expressing to me they've got this uncontrollable anxiety, they never know when it's going to hit or they can't get it to stop. There are a few things physically that will check right off the bat. So we love to do blood work, or even better yet, take the blood work that you already have from
Mhm.
your doctors when you've gone and said, "Hey, I'm not right. Something's happening." And they're like, "Huh, everything looks normal here." Well, you have a normal range and you have an optimal range. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I have so much science and experience in identifying is vitamin D. Something as simple as vitamin D can be a major player in having anxiety and not having anxiety. And I know for me personally, I can tell immediately if my levels have dropped and I need to supplement at a higher level,
Mhm.
because I get that illogical, unrational, just fear, like dread that's coming. And yet there's
Right.
nothing to, prove that there's anything even going on. So I would really have you look at your vitamin D levels with your practitioner or your healthcare professional. You can even order home tests right now through the
Mhm.
internet where they'll test your vitamin D levels. I will tell you that I would say at least 93% of
Mhm.
the population is low on their vitamin D just because of the world we live in right now.
Mhm.
You'll get a lot of people that say, "Oh, you just got to spend more time in the sun." Even those people that spend a lot of time in the sun can still be deficient on their vitamin D,
Interesting.
because it can be available, but the body might not be uptaking it and actually able to utilize it.
Mm.
So we have a clinicianal level protocol that we like to use,
Mhm.
where we really ramp up, especially in the fall going into those winter months, because that seems to be when more people struggle even from seasonal depression or
Hmm.
some of those things. But at a minimum, my personal opinion, this isn't medical advice, this is my personal opinion, is that everyone, especially our females, should be on a minimum of 10,000 IUs, which is international units, a day.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, sleep, energy, brain fog,
Hmm.
then vitamin D can be a simple, inexpensive, absolute fix or resource to look into. So, and it doesn't matter the age. You can be 99, you can be, they're suggesting babies right out of the womb that moms put them on a vitamin D supplement because they're just not able to create it. It is the only vitamin, by the way, that we make. It's the only one we were designed to make ourselves. Everything else we have to get through our food and nutrition. So it's super, super important. So that's the physical side. Sorry, I take you on these tangents and I got to roll it back in.
No, take us on
Yeah.
the tangents. That's exactly what's
Okay.
supposed to
Okay.
happen. This is great. This is absolutely great.
Perfect. So vitamin D, check that. Your iron levels. Iron makes a huge difference in how your body is operating. And there's a lot of people that are low on their iron and have no idea. And the third one is magnesium. Magnesium is something that we need to replenish every day.
Hmm.
And it can help everything from, leg cramps to keeping you asleep all night to your recovery from your workouts,
Hmm.
and just supporting those brain neurons that are keeping everything firing the way they're supposed to. So from a physical point, those are three things I definitely check right off the bat.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you can't forget sleep because
Right.
sleep is so vital. And we could do three other podcasts just on sleep. So we won't go into that one. But I'm going to take you through this system and just
Okay.
give you some additional pieces. So there's the physical, right?
Hmm.
If we go into the mental body, we need to look at those programs. And I know that, in fact, Laura Warburton, she is excellent in this arena at helping you identify what's true and what is no longer serving you. You know, everyone's heard, well, maybe not everyone, so I'm going to share it with you.
Hmm.
The old wise tale about why grandma always cut the ends of the roast off, and her daughter said, well, I watched her do it all my life, so I don't know why she does it, but it must make the roast taste even better. And then her daughter's cutting the ends of the roast off and saying, well, I don't know, my mom did it this way, my grandma did it this way, and so this is how you're supposed to cook the roast, and it turns out, the best.
Hmm.
Well, come to find out, grandma was cutting the ends of the roast off because it wouldn't fit in the pan she had. So can you see how easy it is that we're still running on programs that we were given through our environment from the
Hmm.
people that raised us that maybe weren't even working for them, but it's all they knew. So then they pass it on to us, and that's what we learned and how
Right.
we learned to operate. And so it really does behoove us to stop and go, wait a minute, is this really working? And do I even believe it's true? And if it's not, then what's a better option for me to opt into so that I can, have this particular part of my belief system, or
Eh,
my programs
Yeah.
working
And
better for
I,
me?
I love that. And what's really cool about that, I read a study once that they were studying mice and trauma within mice. And what they did is they would traumatize a mouse, which is really sad, but they did. And they learned that that trauma actually stayed for up to 7 generations in the mice. That 7 generations down, these mice would respond the same way to some trauma that happened 7 generations ago.
Yes.
They haven't tested this on a human trial because I can imagine, 7 generations of human would be a lot to test. However, just imagine we as humans, divine beings with all of these amazing features that you talk about, how long, how far back some of the trauma is that's programmed into our brain that we don't even understand. And
Yeah.
I love how you say you have to stop and question that, which when you said that, the thought that came out of mind was it takes us right out of that subconscious programming to ask the question. And it forces us to come into the world with our big adult brains and start to change those paradigms, right? So I think that's so cool. So just please continue. Please keep going.
Okay. Yeah, so good. So then that mental body transitions into the emotional body. So here's what most people don't realize. Emotions are always in motion. Okay?
Right.
So when a thought comes in and then we decide how we want to feel about that thought, and then the thought, depending on what emotion comes up for us,
Hmm.
that emotion actually drives us into our action. But what you have to remember is most emotions, they come in and they're going to last less than 7 minutes. So if
Wow.
you can just identify that emotion and not place a judgment on it, right? Just
Hmm.
be able to observe it and go, okay, I'm feeling really, um, maybe it's fearful, maybe it's
Hmm.
angry, maybe I'm feeling confused or tired or frustrated, whatever the emotion is, right? Maybe I'm jealous. And before we choose to act on that,
Hmm.
just look at it. And one of my favorite sayings lately is, isn't that interesting? And
Hmm.
rather than identifying that that emotion is you, just know that it's just a thought, it's just a feeling,
Just a thought.
and they're continually rotating and moving. And sometimes by just acknowledging it and looking at it, it just passes without you having to do anything about it. It's when we see it and think, oh no, okay, this is happening to me, this is me right now, and I have no control over this. And then we amp up with all of the other chemical reactions that happen in the body, and
Hmm.
now it's running as a program versus just a thought that could come in or an emotion that could come in and flow right back out. So it's
Right.
just something to be aware of. Emotions are always in motion.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think you should be aware of, I call it the law of opposites. It's a
Okay.
universal law. It's not my law, but
Hmm.
as simple as we have night and we have day, we have cold, we have hot. We are designed to experience the law of opposites in this world, this
Hmm.
realm that we are currently in. And
Hmm.
it's through that experience that we come to know and learn. You've heard, even biblically, that the only way to know the good is that we have to experience the bad.
Right.
Uh, but it's identifying that it's simply an opposite, and that it's not an identity or something that you have to stay stuck in.
Hmm.
And if you can learn that you get to control your thoughts, and honestly, there's, going back to the science, there's a chemical reaction within 5 seconds. If you have a thought and you don't like that thought, if you can switch it out for one that you would rather have within that 5 second period, then your body's going to release the feel good hormones for that positive thought instead of those stress hormones for that icky, scary, negative, mad thought. Five
Hmm.
seconds. We call it the 5 second formula. So it's another way we can train ourselves to move out of that space, be the one in control of how we feel and what we're thinking, how we're feeling about it, and then what action or reaction we want to move into from there. Okay, again, there's your fire hose. I'm going to back it up a little bit. So physical, mental, emotional,
Hmm.
and then we're going to move into spiritual. And
Okay.
what I'm going to say about spiritual is we live in a world, again, where we like to put a spiritual practice into a box. I will tell you that everybody needs a different box for their personal relationship with their higher power. You
Amen.
can, and you can call that whatever it is that works for you. Now, my stance on this is as long as your belief isn't hurting another,
Hmm.
then you have that right to that belief. Okay. Um, Science has proven, there's lots of studies out there now, that people that acquire and utilize and practice a spiritual relationship with a higher power actually live a longer, healthier life. And that's
Cool.
science. There's all kinds of data behind it. Now, what's the big plug? Why would we want to do that? I will tell you that there is nothing more reassuring than believing in a power that's bigger and stronger than you are, And when you're at your weakest, that body or that entity is able to come in and support you and allow you to resonate in hope and faith of something bigger and something better. So
Mhm.
spiritual body, super, super important, and that
Mhm.
can look a thousand myriad of ways. Um,
You know,
going past, go
and
ahead.
it's interesting too, because I think so, and I think that was probably one of the most important things that you've mentioned so far. Not that, yeah, everything has been incredibly important, but especially for those people who are here in Utah, we were raised in such a singular box of pray daily, read scriptures daily, go to church weekly, repent oft, and do these 8 to 10, 20 things that can be summarized. And so many people are falling away from religion right now in general, and they're questioning their views of a higher power because what has worked for a lot of people might not work for them. So I think it's like, I know for me personally, I am learning so much about like blues music, which is weird, right, to say that, but like when I listen to blues music, I feel so connected to myself and my heart and in my higher power that it's awesome, right? And I know, like my wife, for example, Keela, she finds God in nature, right? When she really wants to connect with him, she goes and sits next to a river or, wherever else she goes. And so I love that you said that, because that's been a really big part of my life recently, is that discovery of what my spiritual box actually looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I might ruffle some feathers here, and that's not my intention, but I will tell you, I'm going to say, isn't it interesting that as a society, culturally here in the US especially, but again, this could be worldwide, that our inner belief of not good enough at that very root issue, right,
mhm.
has then created a man that creates a religion or a spiritual practice that believes in a God of hell, fire, and damnation. Now, as you can learn to love yourself and recognize your divinity in who you are, whose you are, why you're here, where you're going, what your true divine purpose is, I believe that your expansion of who that entity is, and I'm going to use, whether it's my Savior Jesus Christ or God, and again, you can whatever works for you there.
Input
But
name of deity here.
name of
Yeah.
deity, that's right. Thank you for that insert.
Mhm.
But what I want you to just take away is ask yourself the question, is the God that you know bigger than that? We hope to believe in that deity that is all loving, that's unconditional, that
Mhm.
um, created us again absolutely on perfect. So I just want to say the God I believe in is bigger than the limitations most of us put on him. I think we have no idea on what that could look like. So
Yeah.
and the funny thing about it is I am traditionally, probably the most popular religion in Utah. That's the one that works for me.
Mhm.
So as I'm saying some of this, it's not going to fit into a lot of those people's traditional box,
Right.
but I think it can be bigger. That's all I want to say.
It's and I love that. And to speak my own truth there, and I agree with you wholeheartedly 100%. And I'm a human living a human life with a human experience. And my human experience is going to have views of everything, right? These righteous and unrighteous judgments. And who am I to question? Like, why can't I question and say, who is my God? How do I perceive this God, and how does he love me fully? And I think that's so important, because you're right. The God that says if you don't pray every single day and or you're going to hell, that's a God that doesn't respect my agency, that doesn't love the wrestle that I'm in with him. Right. I was talking to a client the other day, and I think this is important. And I try not to interject much because this is
No,
about you,
please
Laurie, and I
do.
love it. There was a lady who was crying to me the other day, and she was saying, I am so mad at God right now because of a
Mm.
situation she was in. And I looked at her and I said, good, be mad at God. He would much rather, in my opinion, my God would much rather you be in an arena with him, swapping blows. to the death with him than someone who shies away from the anger,
Mm.
right? Because his love is so much more than what we understand, and his empathy is so much more than what any of us can comprehend right now. That, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he is so much more, like you were saying, than what we can understand on this earthly experience. And
right.
it's so
And
cool.
if you can create that spiritual relationship, again, the traditions of our fathers can be so oh, I guess the word would be like foundational, right?
Hmm.
We need them. But we can also be still running an old program that is not creating our best return, or our, in our
Yeah.
highest interest. And not to say that any one religion is wrong, or doing it wrong. I'm just saying you need to create a personal relationship between you and your maker, your source. And then you make that work for how it works for you. And then you can look at creating those healthy boundaries and those healthy beliefs around that. And so let's move on to
Yeah.
your environment. Okay.
Yeah.
Your environment can be your energetic body. Now,
Hmm.
I love woo woo stuff. I call it woo woo, right? But I only love it when I can back it with science.
Hmm.
And again, it's like science is finally catching up to what the ages have been studying for, eons.
Hmm.
And your environment, you are so affected because we are energetic beings, right? We have this whole electrical system within the body. Tell
Hmm.
me, if your spinal cord that runs all the nervous system and all the different programs in the body was severed, what happens? Well, 90% of the time you're out, right? This life
Hmm.
is over. So that's a great way to look at the fact that we are energetic beings.
Hmm.
How many times have you ever walked into a room and there's nobody fighting, but you can almost feel an energy of like, whoa, what just happened here?
Right.
I think we've all had that experience. That's energy. That's what I'm
Hmm.
talking about. So we need to be super great stewards of our environment, our energetic arena, if you will. What kind of music are you listening to? Just like you just mentioned, that awesome blues music
Hmm.
does wonders for you, right?
Hmm.
It's an energy. It's a sound wave, which is a frequency that is interacting with the cells in your body. I
Hmm.
know this is getting big.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, so the food that we eat, if you took a Big Mac and put it next to, say, a big juicy salad with all the fresh fruit and nuts and the yummy grains in it, or whatever you have, there's an energetic imprint to both of those meals that is completely different. And there's
Right.
no denying it. In fact, they've got some really neat cameras out now that can actually measure the frequency, the heat waves, the different things that are going on in everything from a glass of water to a tree, a plant, us,
Hmm.
and measure this electrical field that's happening within the body. So just know that you need to be a good steward over that. If you're around a lot of toxic, negative people, if you're listening to the dreaded news, constantly on your phone, or you're on social media and somehow because you've clicked on the things that are all about the hardship and the dread in the world.
Hmm.
So now that algorithm is just feeding you, and you start thinking, well, that's the whole world is like this.
Hmm.
It's not. It's the environment that you're managing. And I have co-authored a book years ago, and it's a book on daily gratitude.
Hmm.
But one
What's
of the
that book
things
called?
it's called Daily Gratitude. I just said, where is it? It's right here on my shelf somewhere. It's a daily journal, and there's a synopsis at the top of each page. But one of the things I wrote about was that you literally are like a garden. So if you're out there managing and taking care of the garden, and you're making sure the weeds are out, you can produce beautiful outcomes, lots of amazing food and
Hmm.
nourishment for you and so many more. But if you're neglecting that garden we call life, then the world around it will take over. And then everything that was could be good and beautiful and, a plethora of um, nutrients and things that we could share with ourselves and others gets killed out by all of that negative stuff in the world. So you
Mhm.
you have to be a good gardener. You have to be
Right.
willing to take responsibility for what you're putting into your mind, body, and spirit.
Love it.
And then last on the social and the vocational, those are kind of your two bonus ones.
Mhm.
But socially, take a look at, what your interactions are in your relationships. Is there somebody that you need to forgive? Is there somebody that you need to heal a relationship with? Because
Mhm.
all of that is going to create dis-ease within your body if it's something that's festering under the surface. And then again, on vocational, what are you doing to grow? If it's like that piece of fruit. It reaches its prime ripeness and then it begins to die away. We've constantly got to be continually growing. Even as we age, the more you can, challenge your brain, do new things, be willing to get uncomfortable,
Mhm.
then the longer, healthier life that you can live. And part of that is growing and creating and continually learning. One of my favorite people to follow lately is Gary Brecka. You and I've had lots of
Yes.
conversations about him.
Yes, we have.
One of the things he recently taught me is that what does he say? The quickest road to aging is your pursuit of comfort. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, wow, look at that. And
That's
it's
powerful.
true.
Yeah.
The older we get, and you're too young probably to even realize this, but I mean, I'm 55 now,
Mhm.
and I always used to say, why does my dad or my grandma or whoever, it's like the older we get, the more scared they get of the life around us. And the smaller their world becomes. I can't drive after dark. I can't eat this. I'm too afraid of that. Or, oh, you might fall. Grandma, don't go outside. It's raining or snowing.
Mhm.
And yet it's those challenges of pushing ourselves out of that comfort zone that keeps our world open and growing. Because the bigger your comfort zone gets, the
Mhm.
smaller your world becomes. So be willing to challenge yourself every day to do something uncomfortable. That's been my own personal goal this year. And I'll tell you, it's resulted in cold plunging. And that's a whole
Oh,
nother
we
uncomfortable.
could
I'm here to tell you.
and we could do a whole episode on cold plunging. I'm a huge advocate of it.
Yes,
But good
yes, yes.
on you. So we have obviously those 6 months were hugely influential for you. Just to kind of wrap it back
Oh
to that
yeah,
journey
sorry.
with it.
Bring us
No,
all back,
you're
right?
good. No, that's what needed to be today, and I love it. So thank you so much. And obviously you've learned so much and there's so many skills you've shared and there's so many nuggets of information that have been dropped. I'm sure some people are going to fill a book, if another book with everything you've done. And I know you're writing more books, and I know you're producing and doing all of these amazing things that I'm probably not aware of. I'm just throwing it out there because you're that type of person, and I love it because you love to share. So with all of the skills that you've shared, with all of the mindful, insightful things, what do you feel are some of the more prominent coping skills that people can use? So as because obviously I'm sure it took more than 6 months to discover all of this and to learn all of
Yes.
this, right? Years, you've been addicted to learning, as you were saying earlier. As people are starting to go through these hard 6 months journey, so hypothetical, whatever that journey that is, what are some of the prominent coping skills they can use to help them start to get to a different energy frequency and to create abundance and to do these things that you are actively doing yourself?
Yeah, I will tell you, the first step is you've got to be willing to be open. Be willing to be open to doing life differently.
Right.
And that can look so many different ways, but just one baby step at a time.
Hmm.
I often teach my clients this is a simple, easy thing. So you're through your thymus here, your central nervous system runs. And just by simply tapping on your chest, if you're in the middle of a moment, just tapping on your chest, and somebody might think, oh, you're choking, or you can do this in public, you can do it just without it looking like a big deal. But your thought in your head or out loud is, it's safe to be me. It's safe to be me. It's safe to be me. And you run that program all the time. Now, you
Hmm.
might not believe it's true, but again, we're working with the bigger part of the mind that is always listening, right? Trying to take directions on whatever you're programming. And if you're constantly saying, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I'm sick, I'm this, and reinforcing that brain to produce whatever it is you're speaking, um, then that's what you're going to show up with. So
Right.
number one thing is learn to listen to the words you're speaking.
Hmm.
And I think that that can be a pivotal shift in where you're at and
Hmm.
where you want to be. The other thing that I think we really struggle with in the world we're living in, with all of the, we're post pandemic. We have constant news of wars and rumoring wars, inflation. You can look at all of the what ifs that are happening around us. And there's plenty for anybody to have anxiety about. But if you're truly struggling, and this is something that keeps reoccurring, then I would tell you that your best bet is to learn how to identify where you're at. And in fact, this whole program, I'm just going to put this in here because this is a free program. um, we call this the happy stat,
Hmm.
and this is designed to be your personal thermostat. And what it does is it helps you gauge, either through a color, an icon, a number, a level, where am I at right now? If I can identify where I'm at and how I'm feeling, then 90% of the work is already in progress because I brought it from under the surface to my awareness where I can then do something about it. So
Right.
with this happy stat, this personal thermostat, you read the front, it gives you a scale, from SOS in the red zone, where it's emergency time. We need to
Hmm.
reach out to some professionals, our support team, whatever that looks like. It gives you that space to go, okay, time out. Like, I need to stop and get some help here.
Hmm.
Or maybe you're, from orange to yellow, maybe you're even into the green zone where you're finding some coping skills. But when you can identify where you're at on that level, you can, the way this is designed is then you flip it over, and we've created three easy things you can do in each space to take you to your next best place. So if I'm orange, and orange happens to be what we call crashing,
Hmm.
where the thoughts are getting a little too crazy in my head, I'm starting to panic. This is that spot where the panic attack happens. Excuse me.
Hmm.
um, okay, so what can I do right now to take me out of this space? Well, we flip it over, and we know right away that we're going to check in with our thoughts.
Hmm.
So another golden nugget, here's that moment, write this down. It's becoming well known that the majority of people that struggle with anxiety, their thoughts are often in the future, all of the what ifs, and they're running all of
Right.
those scenarios in their head of usually worst case scenarios, and that builds the fear, builds the panic.
Right.
And interestingly enough, those that struggle with depression, most of their programs, their thoughts are running in all of the could have, should have, would have of the
Past.
past.
Right.
Yeah. So I will tell you, my second thing to do after checking in is ask yourself the question, where am I? Not like physically, here I am sitting in my office, but where am I in my head? Am I in the future? Is that what's causing this new anxiousness? Or
Hmm.
I'm in the past, and that's what's causing me to feel sad and, unable to be productive in my day. So checking in, where am I? Always asking, where am I? And then when you can figure out where you're at, use your five senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What can you taste? What can you feel? Maybe it's just the texture of the clothes that you have on.
Right.
And that will immediately bring you back to the present moment long enough for you to choose your next step to take you into that better place where you really want to be.
I love
Are
it.
you with me?
100% with you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's cool as you were talking about, anxiety is the future, depression is the past. It reminded me of so I've got little kids for those listening, and so we watch a lot of kids shows. And Kung Fu Panda, Master Oogway says something really beautiful, and I think Laurie knows what I'm talking about, where he says the future is anxiety, the past is depression. Right now is a gift. That's why we call it the present. Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to be able to stop yourself, check in and bring yourself to the present is truly a gift because, like what Lori's saying, it takes you out of that subconscious mind and you can start to change. Right.
Right.
And the
Right.
biggest gift we can give ourselves in this life is the fact that we can consciously make changes to bring ourselves to a better place. And
Yes.
Lori, it is shined through this entire episode that those 6 months and some of the coping skills that I know you developed in those times have brought you to this amazing place of abundance. And if you could answer this next question for us, as you look back,
Mhm.
all of these years and all of these skills and everything that you've learned, what can you appreciate about that moment when you pulled off to the side of the road and your tunnel vision went in and you had that meltdown? What can you appreciate about that now?
Yeah. What I appreciate about it most is it allows me the connection with other people that are feeling the same. And
Mhm.
because I've been gifted the opportunity to find the resources to develop the tools that not only help me but are helping others, it it really is giving me that like a purpose driven life. I get up every day and it's become just my nature of who can I help today, whether it's a personal client, whether I'm out and about at the wellness center getting
Mhm.
my dose of my red light therapy because I can't live without it. It does me so much good. Wherever I'm at, right? I'm naturally looking at people, and my gift is just smiling or saying thank you or holding the door or just connecting and realizing that we're all the same. We all have those same needs. We all
Right,
want to be loved. We want to be connected. We want to feel like we matter, feel like we're good enough.
right.
And so it's through those trials and those struggles that we get to choose. Do we let it keep us stuck and broken, or do we move through it with grace and hope and faith and transition into that best version of ourself, right? Wherever our next level is, are we willing to level up? And that's what those heartaches, those hard times, those worst moments can bring you to if you're willing to look at it and stop in the midst of it and just say, okay, Heavenly Father, what do you want me to learn from this? Like
Mhm,
what can I gain so I
mhm.
really never have to be here ever again? Because, we
Those
all
moments
know.
suck. Yeah, those
Yes,
moments
yes,
suck.
absolutely. You'll do anything at that moment to plead your way out of it. So teach me what I got to learn. Let me learn it fast and bless
Mhm.
me to go on and bless others to be able to do the same. I mean, I really think that's what that struggle is. I often say, let's take your mess and turn it into your beautiful message. How do you lift another because of where you've come from and where you're going now?
I love that. And that's exactly why we have this podcast now. Is exactly that reason because my mess has become this message that I get to help other people. I get to galvanize. Um, and I think that's so cool. So, Lori, advice for others, right? I know you've given this whole episode has been advice. This whole episode has been skills, this journey, all of these amazing things. But specifically for those people who are just getting in the realm of mental health, what advice do you have for those people?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, go download the free Happy Stat. It comes with the PDF download. You can even download it in white
Hmm.
instead of the black. And there's a free video training. So it's
Hmm.
as simple as putting in your email address. You get all of that information. You get the free training, and there's lots of beginner skills to just get you on your road to recovery, to really being who you deserve to be. And of course, there's lots of ways that, you and I or your listeners can work together. But my
Hmm.
heart is that I just want them to know that there is a resource. It doesn't cost them anything. There's no obligation. Uh, get it, use it, share it with other people that you know are struggling. And if it ends up that we work together down the road in some manner, then fabulous. I'm happy if what I'm creating and producing is out there making a difference for even just one person, then
Hmm.
it's all worth it. So I'm going to send you, this is a redirect that makes it easy to go and get this Happy Stat training. The website is lessstruggle.com. There's three S's in there. So LESSSTRUGLE.com. So lessstruggle.com. And you can find all of that information there. It's a great place to start. And I have a 90-day program. If you're ready to dive in and really, put the next 3 months into practicing how you can do life better, then that is found at everybodybalanced.com. And it'll show you the entire program where we go through 12 weeks. Once a week, there's a training online that you can do in the convenience of your own home. And
Hmm.
then we get together and do a mentorship call through the process 3 different times. So lots of available tools. In fact, we're doing, this is dated, and I know people will be watching this in the future, but one of the
Hmm.
things I'm excited about is the first part of March, we're doing a color class, and it's called Creations of Color. And
Hmm.
it's all about how you can use color in your world to create more health and happiness. So always lots going on here, lots of fun things to connect with.
That's cool.
And yeah, that's where I'd start.
That's awesome, Laurie. Thank you so much. And for those people who want to get, so I know we have the lessstruggle.com. I was about to say let's struggle. No,
Let's not.
lessstruggle.com. Yeah, let's not. And everybody, BODY, everybody balanced. How else can people get in contact with you if they want to utilize your training, your expertise? If they want to do this art, the colors class, how do they get in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just send me out an email. It's hello@everybodybalanced.com. Or you can find me on Instagram. I'm not the greatest at social media, but I get better every day. But I do get those messages through Instagram. It's actually the name of my company is called The Mind Body Medicine Woman. So the Mind Body Medicine Woman on Instagram. And you can find me on Facebook under Laurie Hartley-Moore.
Perfect. Cool. And I'm just writing all this down. Of course, I will make sure it is in the description of the episode. Um, Thank you, Laurie, so much for your time today. You have provided over an hour of some of the most amazing stories and skills and education and knowledge to these listeners. So for those
Well,
who,
Chase, thank you. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you, but thank
no,
you
you're
really. It is
fine.
my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on. And I'm honored to be a part of your journey and seeing all the incredible things you guys are doing through the Wellness Center. So
Hey,
thank you for
thank
that.
you so much, Laurie. And for those who are listening, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Laurie as she has shared these phenomenal skills. I know there's at least two people that could benefit from everything that she taught today. So please make sure to share this with those people that could use it because it's going to better their life just like it's bettered your life already. Of course, Laurie's information and all of where you can find her will be in the description. If you need to get in contact with me or if you would like to be on the show, just so you know, no story is too big, no name is too small. If you have a story, I want to share it all, please contact me at chase@thewellnesscenter.life. If you want to know more about what I do in my day today, visit thewellnesscenter.life, where we use red light therapy to rejuvenate every single one of your cells, one session at a time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later. Peace out.